Are you bastards ready to get into some shit today? We're gonna dig into this whole city arts center thing in Dublin.
Oh, yeah.
Started off all idealistic and shit, and then went belly up in the most spectacular fashion you can imagine.
It is, yeah, it's quite a story.
So get your drinks ready, light up whatever you light up, and let's get into it.
It's a real head scratcher. I
Yeah.
mean, you've got this arts hub in Dublin back in the mid 20th century. Dublin was a bit bleak back then, especially if you weren't part of the posh art crowd.
Yeah, Dublin in the 50s and 60s. Huh, it's pretty fucking dull.
Yeah. Not really known for its thriving underground scene.
Right.
So picture this. Three teenagers, Jackie Ahern, Anne Tafay, and Sandy Fitzgerald.
Wait, teenagers.
They decided to shake things up.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
These weren't some trust fund kids, were they?
No, no, no.
With mommy and daddy's money.
No, no. These kids were from the north side of Dublin,
Okay.
a working class area. They deliberately chose to set up shop there, to bring art to the people who needed it. They weren't interested in catering to the snooty elites.
So they were giving the finger to the establishment from the start.
Yeah.
Like it.
Exactly. But get this. The Arts Council, the folks who supposedly support the arts in Ireland, they weren't exactly thrilled about these punk rock kids shaking things up.
Really?
They seemed to favor this other place called the Project Art Center, which was more their speed, all highbrow and shit.
The fucking gatekeepers always try to control the narrative.
Tell me about it.
Hmm.
But these kids were determined, and they were onto something. As the 70s rolled on, they started getting more politically charged. They were inspired by this radical community arts movement that was happening in the UK at the time. It wasn't just about art for art's sake. It was about using art as a tool for social change.
So these guys were the real deal. No pretentious wankers sipping wine and discussing abstract bullshit.
Right. They were all about inclusivity, bringing in people who felt excluded from the traditional art world. And their program was fucking wild. Street theater, haircutting, fashion design, audio art, random street events gigs. They even did an exhibition of drawings by survivors of Hiroshima.
No way.
They collaborated with a young U2 on that one before Bono and the boys were selling out stadiums.
Wait, you too.
Yeah.
Was the Edge cutting hair on the streets of Dublin?
Not quite.
Okay.
They helped organize the exhibition, but it just shows you the kind of impact this place was having, attracting all sorts of people.
Yeah.
Even future rock stars.
So things were looking up for these guys. They had a clear mission, a badass program, even fucking U2 on their side. What could go wrong?
Well, that's where the story gets really interesting. Fast forward to 1988, the City Arts Center gets a major break. They move to this massive warehouse on Moss Street, which becomes, get this, the largest community art center in all of Ireland.
A fucking warehouse.
Yeah.
Those lucky bastards.
And guess who helped them set up the place?
Not U2 again.
U2 again.
No.
They kitted out the basement with rehearsal spaces for young bands.
Talk about giving back to the community. U2, those philanthropic rock and roll angels. But hold on, didn't you say this warehouse was in a kind of rough area?
Yeah, Moss Street wasn't exactly the trendy part of town back then, but you know what happens when artists move into a neighborhood, right?
Gentrification, baby. Suddenly, their crappy warehouse is sitting on prime real estate.
Bingo. And that's where things start to get messy. They find themselves sitting on this gold mine. And get this, they actually end up owning the building on Moss Street. Talk about a stroke of luck. They started dreaming big, talking about this huge civic project with a school, a community hall, the whole shebang. But guess who steps in and shits all over their parade?
Don't tell me those bureaucratic wankers at the Arts Council again.
No, this time it's the Dublin Docklands Development Authority, or the DDDA, as those in the no column.
Ah, okay.
They were in charge of redeveloping the Docklands, turning it from, a shithole into that shiny new waterfront you see today.
Okay.
And they had their own plans for that area.
So they told the City Arts Center to fuck off.
Pretty much. They blocked the project, claiming it didn't fit with their vision for the area. Some people think it was just a power play. You know those bureaucrats flexing their muscles and showing those artsy-fartsy types who's boss?
Classic. Fucking assholes.
Well,
So what happened next? Did the City Arts Center fight back?
they tried, but it was an uphill battle. And then things went from bad to worse. The year 2001 rolls around, and suddenly their funding dries up.
What?
The Arts Council pulled the plug, leaving them high and dry. And to top it all off, their longtime director, Sandy Fitzgerald, the guy who'd been there since the beginning, he decides to call it quits.
So they're broke, leaderless, and stuck in a building that's about to become prime real estate. Sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Oh, yeah. And that's when this new director comes in, a guy named Declan McGonigal. Now, this is where things get really bizarre.
Lay it on me. What did this McGonagall character do?
He decides to shut the whole damn place down for 2 years.
What the fuck? Why?
Fires all the staff, stops all the activities, everything. Dead stop.
Why would he do that? Was he some kind of art-hating psychopath?
He claimed he was launching this thing called the Civil Arts Inquiry, supposedly a deep dive into the future of the arts and all that jazz. He organized all these fancy meetings and debates, bringing in all sorts of bigwigs and experts, but a lot of people saw right through his bullshit.
Really?
They thought he was just using it as an excuse to line his own pockets.
So while the City Art Center was gathering dust, this dude was raking it in talking about the future of the arts. Sounds like a classic scam.
And get this, while he's hosting these pointless meetings, he was earning 50 grand a year.
50 grand a year to pontificate about art. Jesus, this McGonagall guy was either a genius con man or a complete moron. So what happened to the Civil Arts Inquiry? Did it actually achieve anything?
Not a damn thing. It produced a bunch of reports and recommendations, but none of it ever amounted to anything concrete. It was basically a 2-year-long wank fest for intellectuals achieving absolutely nothing.
What a colossal waste of time and money. So they've got this prime real estate, a director who's either incompetent or corrupt, and they're bleeding money. What happens next?
Well, remember how they were sitting on this property that was rapidly increasing in value thanks to gentrification?
Yeah.
In 2003, they decide to cash in. They sell the Moss Street building for over 4.2 million euros.
4.2 million. Those lucky bastards. Did they use the money to build a new art center? Something even bigger and better?
Nope. They blew it. All of it.
You're kidding me, right? They had millions of euros, and they pissed it all away. How the fuck do you manage that?
It's a masterclass in financial incompetence. They spent a fortune on operating costs, archiving all that useless crap from the Civil Arts Inquiry, handing out redundancy packages to the staff they'd fired. And then the real kicker. They buy a smaller, crappier building that needed a shitload of work.
Wait, they sold their prime real estate for millions and then used the money to buy a worse building? Are you serious? These people were dumber than a bag of hammers.
It's almost unbelievable how badly they mismanage things. It's like they won the lottery and then immediately blew it all on scratch cards and dodgy investments.
So they went from broke to being rich and back to being broke again, all in the span of a few years. What a tragicomic shit show.
And it gets even worse. Remember that Moss Street building they sold for a measly $4.2 million?
Yeah, the one that was practically a gold mine.
Well, as of 2021, it was valued at a whopping 35 million euros.
35 million. Holy shit, they could build a goddamn art palace with that kind of money.
And the worst part, the building has remained unused and undeveloped to this day. It's just sitting there rotting away while the arts community in Dublin is struggling to find affordable space.
Talk about a kick in the balls. It's like a giant middle finger to every struggling artist in the city.
It's a painful reminder of the lost potential, the missed opportunities, and it makes you wonder, what the hell were those people thinking?
They had a chance to create something truly special, a legacy for the city, and they completely fucked it up. It's enough to make you want to scream.
It's a story that'll make you laugh, cry, and want to punch a wall all at the same time.
So we've got this tale of ambition, idealism, greed, incompetence, and just plain bad luck. What the hell are we supposed to make of it all?
It's a story that raises some serious questions about the value of art, the role of money, and the often absurd nature of human decision-making.
And maybe it's a reminder that even with the best of intentions, things can go spectacularly wrong.
Absolutely. But it's also a reminder that we can learn from the mistakes of the past. We can try to do better to support the arts in a way that's sustainable and meaningful. Yeah, it really is.
But let's not forget about the good times, you know? Those early years when those kids were just starting out full of piss and vinegar shaking up the establishment, they brought some much-needed life and energy to Dublin's art scene.
Oh, absolutely. You can't take that away from them. They created something special, something that resonated with a whole generation of artists and community members.
And they weren't afraid to push the boundaries, you know, to challenge the status quo. They weren't just about putting on fancy exhibitions for the elite. They were about making art accessible to everyone. They were about making a statement.
It's interesting, isn't it? They start out as these rebellious outsiders fighting against the system, and then they become the establishment. They're sitting on this valuable property making decisions that ultimately lead to their own demise.
Like that saying, absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? Maybe they got too caught up in the whole money game and lost sight of their original vision.
It's hard to say for sure, but I think there's a valuable lesson in there for all of us, even those of us who aren't running multi-million euro arts organizations. It's about staying true to your values, remembering why you started in the first place.
Yeah, and not being a fucking idiot with your money.
Right. Always a good rule of thumb.
But seriously, this whole story, it's a tragedy, but it's also kind of inspiring in a fucked up way. These kids, they had a dream, and they went for it. They made mistakes, sure, some bigger than others, but they left their mark on the city.
And their legacy lives on even if the physical space is gone. There are countless artists and community members who were touched by the City Art Center, who were inspired by what they did.
So maybe in the end, it's not just about the money, the buildings, the bureaucratic bullshit. Maybe it's about the impact you make on people's lives,
Yeah.
the connections you create, the memories you leave behind.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And it's a reminder that art can be a powerful force for good, even in the face of adversity.
So let's raise a glass or a joint to the City Art Center. A flawed, messy, ultimately tragic story, but a story that reminds us that art matters, community matters, and that sometimes even when you fuck things up royally, something good can still come out of
Let's
it.
cheers to that.
All right, folks, that's a wrap for this episode of The Deep Dive. We dug into the rise and fall of the City Arts Center, a story that's full of twists, turns, and more than a few facepalms. We explored the triumphs, the tragedies, the financial fuck-ups, and the enduring legacy of this once vibrant arts hub. We hope you learned a thing or two, had a few laughs, and maybe even got a little bit pissed off along the way.
It's been a pleasure diving deep with you all.
Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and keep those creative fires burning. And remember, don't let the bastards grind you down. Peace out.